and they wanted in gray, just gray. So we made one in yellow because we're going to buy a few of those that we can give away to our customers.
Yeah, cool.
So we thought a yellow one is, some of our products are yellow and it's really bright, you know, it'll show up at a trade show really nice.
Yeah.
We tried a couple at a campsite over the weekend and it's awesome. Just
Well, I
keeps
know when
ice
you
for
said that, I was like,
11 days it kept ice for us.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, I don't know if you want me to give an intro for the company.
Sure, let's
yeah,
hear it.
anything you want, we'll just edit, yeah.
So I'm Eric Triplehorn. Well, let me know when you're ready.
I'm
are
ready,
you
yeah.
filming?
I'm already
I'm not
filming.
going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to her.
That's perfect. That makes it, yeah.
I'm Eric Triplehorn. I'm the CEO of Agri-Inject. We're in the irrigation industry in the United States and worldwide. We sell equipment that injects fertilizers and chemicals into irrigation systems. So a center pivot, drip systems, irrigation on golf courses, all kinds of industries can use our equipment to treat the crops or the grass or whatever they may be growing at the same time that they're irrigating. So it's a very efficient process. It's something that saves time, saves labor, saves a lot of resources. So it's a value-added product that we're happy to produce and sell worldwide. In our business here, we have a team of salespeople that occupy the front area here. Dana handles all of our admin duties and phone answering and direction of people and whatnot. So we have one salesperson that is out of the company, lives in California, works there, and services the western half of the United States, or western quarter of the United States. So we also act as a dealer locally, so we will conduct business with normally we're selling our product through dealers, but we'll sell our systems direct to end users here within 30 or 40 miles. And so we have kind of a counter where we do business like that. Okay. Morgan does purchasing and inventory control, and Sergio, I don't know if he's in this office, but he does, he's the operations manager. So Sergio is kind of the head of everything that happens in the plant.
Okay, so Eric.
Yes.
Sorry. What's your favorite part about working at the company?
So we have 20 people here, and really that's not enough, meaning that there's so many functions that happen within the business that for everybody to kind of live in their own function, like for instance Morgan's purchasing, right? And she's her primary role is to keep us well stocked with inventory at the right price, and yet there has to be more that she has to do. And it's the same with everybody else, that everybody else has to be, everybody including me has to be involved in all the projects that the company has going, just because we have to lean on each other for advice, for help us getting the work done. And that really is, to me, what the motivation for me to keep working, and the excitement that it brings for me is that you get to be involved in every project that the company is involved in. And anybody in the company can get involved, and sometimes do get involved, just because we want to get ideas from people, or we just need people to do the work. So
Truly team.
it is, and sometimes it's very frantic, right? That you're working on something and somebody comes up and has a problem, and you just immediately go and solve that problem and get 3 or 4 people involved. And it's maybe isn't the most efficient, but it certainly keeps you alive. I mean, it's thrilling at some point, but I think that's we have in our manufacturing business. There's so many things that need to be attended to, because we have a variety of product lines and a lot of different options within those product lines. And so to keep all of that functioning, it's the same kind of pain, if you will, that a company 3 or 4 or 10 times our size would have, and yet we're doing it with 20 people, right? So it's really an accomplishment that we can look back on, you know, when we think about getting through the year and say, we did that with resources that, you know, other companies can just devote people to. We did it ourselves just with the team that we have.
Wow, that's great.
So
Okay, great.
we'll move into, it's kind of noisy here, and I can shut this off if you need to. I think I will. So this is our service area where, yeah, be careful there. Customers will bring in, these are all fertilizer pumps, but they'll bring in systems that we have made over the last 30 years for us to service. Right now, Aaron's out of the office, but somebody is working here year-round, servicing pumps. He's got a pump in motion right now. But these pumps could come in from all over the nation, and we like to get them serviced. Right now, it's a critical time for us to get pump serviced immediately because they need to get back in the field. But through the winter, we will, you know, service and winterize systems so that they're ready to go in the spring.
Okay. What skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential to success in this job field?
So, that's an interesting question. It depends on the area of the business as to what skills we need, but ultimately, this area, we need somebody that's very mechanically, you know, has a mechanical aptitude, certainly. But ultimately, the main thing that's needed is a problem-solving attitude, and also the ability to analyze a problem and think about what the possible solutions may be, or what the possible problems may be for what that pump is doing, right? Because even though we've worked on that pump 200 times, somebody will bring one in that's doing something that's a problem we've never seen. And you have to really think through that, and how does this pump work, and what possibly could that be that's causing that problem? And that adds a lot of value to the company, because instead of working on that for 4 hours, you may just think about it for 15 minutes and discover the solution through analytical thinking versus just brute force, taking the thing apart and reassembling it and hoping that you've solved the problem, right? So I think that's the critical thing, is that for this area, problem solving and thinking critically is really a valuable attribute. So, again, it's kind of messy just this time of year. Stuff's coming in and out. We're testing units. This is a unit right here that is going to Egypt. So they're growing sugar beets in Egypt, and they're injecting through on site in the middle of the desert. They've buried pipelines, so they're injecting 1,500 meters away from the site at which it's actually going into the irrigation stream. And so we're simulating some of that. This is the actual pipe that they have in the ground. So we're injecting from that tank through all of these coils of tubing back into that tank, just to simulate whether or not that will work in the field. And we're discovering that it will, and so we've got 8 of these systems. That's the first order going to Egypt, and hopefully hundreds more to come, because it's a large farm that's going, $1 billion project in Egypt, growing sugar beets in the sand. Yeah. So that system there, we sold 16 of those. I know it looks like it's the same, but that's actually a system that needs to be tested as well. That's a more sophisticated system going to Peru. They've got 16 of those in Peru. We shipped those right before COVID hit, and they haven't even unpacked them from the containers. But ultimately, that's a sugar cane farm in Peru. So it's kind of exciting to see those things. So in the manufacturing facility really starts from here, and we've completely redesigned the facility to make sure that the flow of people, the flow of information, and the flow of product is optimized. It's never perfect, and in fact we've got some things that we're going to do to make that even better. But what you see right now is raw material. So I don't know if you can see this coating system, but what you see is a lot of yellow bins, and that means raw materials. So it's just basic fittings that we've either made or have purchased that ultimately will get reassembled into, you know, sub-assemblies or our final good products. Anything you want to ask right now here? So we try to keep this very organized. We try to keep it with, you know, where things are labeled properly, where, you know, if there's, this is a product that doesn't get used very much, but there's 2 available here to sell, and if I take the last 2, I will signal a reorder to our purchasing agent, Morgan. She will come out and know that that needs ordered. But our computer system should tell her anyway, just there may be a count that's wrong. And so there's a backup plan that if the product is out and the order gets signaled, that happens manually as well as through our computer system.
Right.
Additionally, there's one product that's behind the wall here on the bin that allows you to have at least one until the time that the other ones come in.
Cool.
So those are kinds of systems that keep us in business, if you will, right? That if I'm out of that part and it's needed for a product that could be a $10,000 product, I don't want to have a 30-cent item keep us from shipping that. Some of the things that we also do are packaging. So many of our dealers have businesses where they may have a showroom, and so instead of just putting this product in a bin, you know, kind of behind in their parts area, now they can show that in their retail areas. So a lot of the irrigation dealers are being forced to have more of a showroom atmosphere, and so we have helped them show some of our product with that. So these machines do this kind of packaging, which is called skin packaging. Any questions about that? So now we move into sub-assembly areas. You'll see 4 or 5 distinct cells where products are manufactured. Right here, though, is the area where our operational team, they'll typically meet here once or twice a week, sometimes daily, to talk about what's on the schedule for today. You can see there's a whiteboard with the schedule, 2-week schedule of what needs to be done, reports that are showing where we stand from a business perspective. That machine over there is a laser, so we will laser mark our various things, but in this case, like our serial number tags, those get laser marked. So that's quickly and easily done. We're not stamping the numbers into the tag, instead we're using the laser. So that's neat technology. Additionally, some of our metal parts can be laser marked as well, so we can brand our parts or put serial numbers on them, whatever it may be. So each individual cell for a sub-assembly area is designed in a way where we have raw material here to build. These are in yellow bins, again, this raw material. And then as we build them, we put them into blue bins, which signify that a sub-assembly has been made, right? So this is a part, there's 8 or 10 parts that make up this sub-assembly. And those live here in the cell and in a blue bin. So it's easy for this particular product line, it's easy for somebody to, one, have the right tools here and only the tools that are necessary to build this particular product line, the raw material, and the storage of what we normally want to keep in stock. Okay, so that's all happening within this cell. So we try to make sure that there's light, right? There's plenty of light on the task. Hopefully what you can see is that our facility is very clean, very well lit, but even additional light here to make sure that there's no shadows or anything on the job or at the workplace. The tools are here, only those tools that are necessary. And that person could look and say, this bin's empty. I don't have a work order, but it looks like we need to build those, right? So there's some manual oversight that says, I know our computer system maybe isn't telling me to build those, but we're out, right? So it's hopefully we're getting to a point where it's very visually oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Questions about that?
No.
I won't stop at all of these, but another cell where we build plumbing assemblies. So we have many more plumbing assemblies than these, but these are the ones that are like 80% of what we do here. You know, a final good uses this particular subassembly. And so we will build, this is typically what we need in stock to meet a demand for a week before somebody can get back in and build these products. Again, we have jigs and fixtures that are designed there to allow us to build those. There's Sergio. Hey, Sergio. He's our operations manager.
Oh, you got me on camera, huh? Can I pose? Or
Yeah,
just
sure.
do Mr. Universe?
Ask him a question.
Oh, okay. All right. What advice would you give someone who's considering this type of job?
What advice would I give them? If you really do follow the method that's being presented, and if you follow one piece flow and the philosophy behind it, you can actually apply it to a lot of different things. So you literally improve yourself. You improve yourself in areas where you don't believe you can get things done. You'll go in and you'll go, I'm not an engineer, I don't know how that works, but if you follow the process, you get the idea, and it comes as simple as possible. So really then, at that point, or where you would find yourself 2 or 3, maybe even 5 or 10 years down the road, with all of this knowledge that you've been able to retain really easy. You know, so you get better, you know, if you follow the methods properly and you really try to understand it. Housekeeping, all of it. You can use it in life in general. It's great stuff. You know, so.
That's great. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Sergio.
Yep.
So,
Yes,
do you want him to say who he is, what he does?
Oh, I think he did, didn't he?
Did he? Yeah, okay, good.
I thought so.
So the core of our product is the pump. These are all metering pumps that we don't produce these on site. We have a worldwide exclusivity agreement with our supplier. But every system that we sell has some sort of pump on it. And if you can look back through the shelves there, you'll see a variety of different pumps. We like to keep a lot of inventory in stock so that if somebody comes in with an order of 30 or 3 or 13, that we're able to fulfill that order. When we redesigned the manufacturing plant, these pumps used to be under lock and key because there's honestly a high value of inventory here. You know, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars right here. And we chose to look at it a little bit differently. That rather than trying to put a cage around that highly valuable inventory, let's keep it right here in the middle where we can consistently access it with all of our employees. We need to come out and do cycle counts every week. It's right here where it's available. It's not hidden, and there's no the steps to go to process this. The actions that it take are optimized within the workflow. Okay, so what we need to do when these pumps come in, they look like this. These particular pumps don't have motors. They don't have decals. They've been tested by the manufacturer, but we certainly wanted to test them again. So we've designed a line here where that pump gets lifted onto a trolley and run through a series of processes that ultimately ends up with that pump being tested again. And so these are 50-gallon pumps. You will see that that pump gets a motor, gets decals, gets tested, gets put on a cart, and ultimately gets put on the shelf. So that pump is ready then to be sold to a customer. And we know that it's functioning properly. So this is something, again, that optimizes that process. It, again, the tools are right there. The products the decals, labels, things like that are right there at the site where it's easy to accomplish that task. Okay. Another little sub-assembly cell where we build calibration tubes. Nearly all of our products require some sort of tubing, some sort of wire. So you'll see these coils of tubing, coils of wire. This is a table that allows us to coil those and keep track of the distances or the lengths of those. And so that table can move from tubing to hose to wire
and then the storage of all of those products are right here close. So my excess tubing is right there close to the point of use. So again, if a coil runs out, you don't have to walk to a storage area to get that to get the replacement. It's right here close to the area. Some of our equipment uses mixing shafts where there's a motor in the tank that mixes up, chemicals and water, chemicals and oil, or multiple chemicals. And so these particular, the motor and shaft mixing assembly is produced in this cell. Any questions about that? So we've gone from storage of our raw materials in through subassembly, and now this addition was added on in 2013. We're moving into shipping, receiving, and final goods assembly. So let's start back here. One, so that we had a little more space, because honestly, the process that he's doing is the longest process in the assembly of our fertilizer pumps. And so we needed a little more inventory in stock, we needed to have a little more space, and one of the most primary reasons is that these parts that he's producing get used in this line right here. So it saves a lot of footsteps in terms of where the storage is relative to where the use is of the product. So all of these assemblies are waiting for a pump to get installed on the base, and Ian has made those, and they're waiting right here for this line where the pumps actually get built. So this kind of looks messy, but it's honestly very efficient. And you can look and see that there are 5 individual lift tables, and those lift tables are actually accessible from either side. So we build one product line from one side of the benches, and we build another product line from the other side of the bench. So on this side of the line, we build our fertilizer pumps, and the pumps that we saw, the yellow pumps, get mounted on those bases. And so currently he's building one of our tank bases from the west side, or the east side of the line. The west side of the line builds the fertilizer pumps. So all of the tables have these provisions for a trolley to roll on it. Okay? So I'm trying to say this the right way. If I'm building a fertilizer pump, these tool racks move back and forth. So the tools that are on this side of the rack are eligible to be used on this, building fertilizer pumps. So we just move the racks to that side, and now we can build fertilizer pumps. If we need to reconfigure the line to build insectigators, which are using the tanks and bases there, we can just move the racks to the other side of the line. So currently, Jack is building an insectigator there. He's got that particular rack, tool rack, moved can lift that table to where these two rails made up. He'll move that over. That's the testing station right there. He'll plug it in and get everything tested. So the main area where we use the lift table is when we're working on systems like this. So you can see that it's at a height where this work is right in front of him, right where he can easily see it. He's not reaching up, he's not bending over. If he needed to get inside this tank, he can lower it down so that he can reach inside the tank. If he needs to work on the pump, he can raise it up to where that pump is going. So that's why every table can move up and down. So that's been still kind of working the kinks out of this line, but it's very flexible. It's saved us, in effect, I don't know, 1,500 square feet in our facility. Because it used to be that we had a line for this product and a line for the fertilizer pumps, and that occupied all of this space. Now it all happens within this amount of space here. Okay? We'll get out of your way, Jack. Thanks. Jack, how long have you been with us? 5 years? 6 and a half. 6 and a half. So Jack's been with us for 6 and a half. Most of our folks back here have been here at least 5 years. Ian is somebody that's new, but when you present work to the production people in this sort of way, right, then it gives them satisfaction that they're not hunting down a tool. They know that everything that's needed to do that job is right in front of them. It's very efficient, so they're getting a good amount of work done per day, right? That all of that means something to the employee at the end of the day. The thing I'd like to do is get some padding down where they're not on the concrete. You know, they've got a little soft cushion underneath. But again, we're just working out the details of that. So when he's done with that, he'll either put that onto a pallet. That pallet is for our fertilizer pumps. But he'll put that onto a pallet, and then that moves right into shipping. So these lines are designed to spill right into this area where it goes right into shipping. Okay. I'll talk a little bit about shipping and receiving, and then we'll go see the molding area. So Mario, who's over there on wrapping those two pumps up, runs both receiving and shipping, right? Ultimately, the best design for this plant would have been to have receiving on that side, shipping over here, so it kind of runs kind of in a U shape. You know? But one person can actually do both receiving and shipping. So we bring shipping in this door, or receiving in this door, shipping out of that door. Mario does both. So you see that there's benches here and kind of a rack where it's divided. Both tasks can be done. One person either side. So we've tried to make it where he's got all the tools he needs. He's got storage of boxes above. The FedEx and UPS folks can come in virtually unattended. The UPS people know that those are their packages to pick up there. FedEx knows that that's their packages to pick up. When they bring in, they know that they just drop it off here. We receive. If there's any sort of quality control, that happens in this little area here. We're trying to design in such a way that it's very understandable to know what happens where, even for our vendors that are coming in.
Right.
I'm happy to answer a question anytime you have.
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing great.
So on the shipping side of things, did you get that? Can you pull that off and put it back on? So these particular products, we make these we modify these pallets to where it has a floor of cardboard and then 2x6s nailed down to the pallet, because our product, I wasn't able to show you this, but the base itself has a channel that's been molded in so that it fits right onto a 2x6. And then there's holes molded into that product where we just bolt it down. You can see right there that there's a lag bolt. He doesn't have to strap these products down at all. The product itself has been designed to where it bolts down to the pallet and stays.
Cool.
Okay, so then we wrap it. They'll put a box around it. It's very well protected. Our freight from that product design, our freight claims went from $20,000 a year to nothing,
Right. Cool.
just because of how we're, you know, a redesign of our product. Be careful. Thank you, Mario. So it makes it a lot easier. It makes the customers are happier. We will give them actually in every shipment a little nut driver that they can take those lag bolts in.
Cool.
So that happens here. This is stuff that's ready to go. I think we just shipped is that Mark 7? Yeah. So a customer that's in the car wash manufacturing business we mold for, and they've just picked up some products that we've
Cool.
These are 2 coolers that are going out. So Rover is a company that, I'll show you a little bit about that. They're a company that makes a cooler that we mold and assemble, store the inventory, and fulfill orders for them on site. We put up this mezzanine in the last 10 months, and so that's doubled our floor space right in this area. And so you can see a lot of final goods. Those are ready to ship. So if a customer orders that, instead of waiting weeks, they can have that shipped the same day. And this time of year, that's critical. That wins us business. That's a competitive advantage for you. Look right here, close. So this is, in 2013-14, we brought in rotational molding. Rotational molding is a plastic molding process that produces a hollow part. So it's perfect for tanks, perfect for the big fan housing, right? It's perfect for larger parts. We were having that process done by a vendor in Denver. We decided that we wanted to be able to control our own quality, control how much inventory we're stocking, control the demand of produce according to the demand of our product, and also just bring that capability in-house. So, you know, we've got 2 or 3 people now that are working in this department that we wouldn't have had hired before.
Right.
So we've added jobs. But the way the process works, let me get a little. Most of these products are linear low density polyethylene. That's the product, and it's pulverized. So this is plastic that's been tinted. It's been compounded black, so we get the product in and it's black, just like this. So we don't have to add a color into it. It's already black. But it's pulverized, and so it's, you know, it's kind of the consistency of salt or sugar, right? And so if you need a product to be like this one, maybe 27 pounds, and if you need it to be 27 pounds, you weigh out 27 pounds into a bucket or 2, and then you pour that into the mold. So these are rotational mold. That's a 200-gallon tank on the bottom. So that 200-gallon tank, I think the shot weight on that is, I think it's 41 pounds. So we'll measure out 41 pounds into probably 2 or 3 buckets. And then it comes apart right here, so it splits. And from the operator station, we would unbolt all those bolts, lift the top off, pour the plastic in, bolt the top back on, and then these arms move independently. So this arm is getting staged to move into the oven. So that's a large oven chamber right there that typically will run about 575 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not too hot, right? It's very well insulated. And then these arms the head of the arm starts to turn both this direction and this direction at the you get a really kind of complex rotation where that powdered plastic now just tumbles over internally over every surface. Starts to heat up and stick to the wall and then melt. And then gradually all of the product will tumble across the surfaces, stick and melt. So you wind up with, this is the part that we've cut off of another part, but you wind up with, this is the external surface of the part, and this is internal. So you wind up with a nice even wall thickness and a nice smooth surface internally. So it spends about 20 to 25 minutes in the oven. Then the arm moves down into what we call cool one, which is just in the ambient environment where it's still cooking a little bit and starting to cool down. Then it'll move into a cooling chamber where there's a high velocity fan blowing air across that mold. It's still turning. And sometimes we spray a little water on it. And ultimately after about 20 minutes of that, it comes out to the operator station and he pulls the top off, pulls the part out, refills it, and the cycle repeats. So sounds, I don't know if that sounds easy or sounds complicated, but this is 50% science, 50% art.
Right.
Because if we start off and it's 40 degrees back here, right, or it's 100 degrees back here, these parts can run differently.
Right.
So it's very challenging to know, or if the static, if there's a lot of wind and there's a lot of static in the air, the parts will run differently as well.
Right.
So it's a neat process. But now we can do things like doing work for other folks, or these are parts that haven't yet been trimmed, but that decal is actually embedded in the plastic. So we put that inside the mold, and then the plastic runs around it. So that's not a decal. That's not going to scratch off. We can do those kinds of things ourselves. That particular 200-gallon tank is really kind of challenging to store. So if I ordered that from an outside vendor, they would make me buy 40 or 45 of those.
Right.
So I'd have to find a place to store 45 of those tanks. Instead, I store 6 or 7 upstairs, and I run them as I need them.
So has it saved you money? Have you found that it saved you money by doing this part
Well,
of the
absolutely,
process?
right. That other company wasn't doing it for free,
Right.
right? So the excess money, the margin that we were paying them, obviously comes back to us.
Right.
And then you're able
But
to
your
turn a
story-
profit on it by working for other companies.
Yeah, that's right. So this machine, even if we didn't run our own products, the products that we're doing for other people, like there's the cooler molds right there. That's the lid to the cooler, and that's the body of it. It doesn't look like it, right? But that's, the machine pays for itself now just by doing work for other people. And if normally we would have some of those sitting around here, you know, we do a part for the car wash manufacturing company. We do a part for an embroidery machine company. A guy makes a dog bowl that you can travel with a dog bowl and put food and water in it, just close it up and just carry
I
it with
think I
you.
have one, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Those are the coolers right there.
So are there, how many arms are on that?
So there's 3 arms. So you see the arm coming out now
Okay.
in the back, and it will.
So all these are operators and others that are working through.
Yeah, so you can see that it's spinning. At some point, Rob will move arm 3. I don't think actually arm 3 back. We'll move, as soon as that moves into the oven, or into the cooling chamber, he'll come back and bang 3 through the oven and just sit back there where that one is now, right? So that there's room for these other ones to move around. So that's kind of a scheduling issue too, because not all of the parts take the same amount of time. You can run some parts in
Right.
a 15-minute heating cycle and some in a 25-minute heating cycle. So you need to make sure that that's all scheduled where we're getting as many turns as we can today.
Right.
But that machine is a used machine and we bought it used. And you can just tell that there's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
And it's been challenging but it's also one of the best things we could have done from this standpoint. That now we know how to, that we can do that ourselves. We solve the problems. When that thing breaks, we fix it ourselves.
Right.
And we've learned that we can do that. Right? All of our people just know that you just dig in and get your hands dirty and you fix it.
Right.
Right? So that's been, in addition to all of the other benefits that we've had from bringing that in-house, I think that ranks near the top, and it's really a hidden benefit that
Right.
you can't really quantify it, but
Right.
just that we have attitudes now that we can fix that, and we're going to figure it out.
Right.
Sometimes that thing stops and we have no idea why. You just have to look at there's a book this thick of the schematics of that thing. You just got to figure out what's
Right.
wrong. So, I mean, honestly, and I don't know that any of us, if we thought about it, would put that near the top of the list and we just had to write it down. But to me, that's one of the biggest benefits we've had for bringing that
Right.
in-house. Because now, the next thing that we want to do, we won't say no to it.
Right.
And a good example is in this container. This is where we inject foam into. This is a scrap piece. This is a trial piece that we use, but this is the lid to that cooler, right? And so, after you mold this, you have to then inject foam into the top of this. Again, I'm sorry to show you this. It's one that needs to be scrapped, right? But that is an art to
Yeah,
make sure
I bet.
that you get this foam to where now it closes on that cooler and forms a good seal.
Right.
If it doesn't form a good seal, it's not a good cooler.
Right.
Right? We never would have taken that on. One, if we didn't have the machine, obviously we wouldn't have taken it on. But just our mindset is that if we can do that,
Yes.
we can do that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're in the cooler making business now, right? It took a lot of scrap. These are just scraps that we've made months ago where we learned how to actually build a cooler good. And it takes a lot of work.
Right.
But you just have to get through the process.
Right.
So I think the last time I was here, you guys were doing like granite looking tops.
Yeah,
Do you still do any of that?
we do. Like, I'll show you a part. This is an untrimmed part that we are making for another company.
That is so cool.
That you can
yeah.
buy this plastic that, so you saw how fine that powder was, right?
Yeah.
And all of that powder is the same material. There's some chunks in there that are bigger and are different materials, right, that don't melt exactly like everything else. And so what you end up with is a nice looking granite pattern like that.
Yeah. Cool.
That's awesome.
And the sky's the limit on the things that you can do.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's super cool.
There's a gray one that's a little more pronounced, right? These are
Yeah, I
scrap
think this
parts.
is the
but-
one I saw.
Yeah, so just really neat. So a good example of parts that are made in rotational molding. The bigger tanks that you see, like a 1,000-gallon poly tank at the center that they're injecting fertilizer using our equipment.
Right.
That's made on a rotational molding machine. But slides at a park, right? That
Right.
the ones that you're in, or just a regular slide, normally are rotational molding.
Okay.
Yeah. So, one thing that we've added is so this is how the customer wants the part, right? With this hole cut out and the holes drilled in, this end cut off. You can't mold the part to where it comes out looking like this, right? It has to be a solid part. This is all post-processing work. And so what you end up with are caps and cutouts that the customer doesn't want,
Right.
right? And so what we're doing now used to be, we didn't know what to do with those. They were just making little landfill, right? Now we are cutting those up into smaller chunks, grinding them up. They come out to maybe eraser size. sell back to a recycler that will buy that stuff from us.
Oh, nice.
Right?
perfect.
So it's not making it into a
Yeah.
landfill, it's getting put back into,
Love that.
you know, and then they will grind it up, make it into powder, and you can use that to make, honestly, this part could be made with a little bit of recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's super cool.
So we feel good about that. You know, it's
Yeah.
loud, it takes a lot of effort to do, but we'd rather do that than put it in the landfill.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
So there's a variety of stations here where prep work is done. It's where things are cut out. Like, for instance, let me show you. This particular bench, the only thing that happens, the only thing that happens here is the prep on this base. So we'll make thousands of these a year, right? So this is devoted to that. But I need to cut a hole in here for a switch to mount. So there's a lot of geometry that I can index off of, and this particular one. So then I can lock that down with I'm not doing something right here, but I can lock that down, and then we can cut that hole, and it's in the same place every time.
Right.
It's exactly the right size. I think this may be an old jig, and we're working on the other one because I see a problem with that. But that ensures that it's not how somebody feels that day as to whether or not it gets done right. It just gets done exactly the same way every time. That's really about it.
Cool. Cool.
Any questions? Anything you want me to go over again?
I guess maybe when we get back in, I'll just do some follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Just a couple. Most of them were answered as we went through, so
So again, I'm not sure so Rover,
yeah.
we mold the product, right, the lid and the base, and then we inject it with foam, clean it up, and then they supply us with all of the wheels and the handles and the hinges and and the decals, all of that. They supply us with that inventory. We assemble it, we box it, we store those boxes. I don't know where they are. Well, actually, they're going out as fast as we're making them, honestly. But we'll store those boxes on site. They get an order on their website. They send that over to us. We fulfill the order. They
Wow.
never touch it.
Wow.
So we're doing molding, assembly, and fulfillment work.
So you're essentially the behind the scenes for that
Yeah, exactly,
company. Everything.
exactly.
Wow.
Yep. So that's fun. We're also doing it for that company there. So that should be kind of a year-round business for us,
Right.
where we're very seasonal. Those kind of things tend to even out the load. What's challenging is when that demand comes at the same time as our typical demand.
Right.
So I certainly would rather fill those gaps up with product that happens in our off season.
Right.
Yeah, that's efficient.
But generally, to fill up the off season, the main opportunity we have is international business south of the equator,
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
right? Because our seasons
Yeah,
are opposed.
perfect.
Yeah.
So the demand for that is going to be exactly opposite of what we're dealing with now. So, and that's where we need to be. We sell onto normally 6 continents a year, but we could double our business easily just in the international market.
Cool.
So you say you have 20 employees. Is that 20 that work in the office, or is that 20 for the whole
20
company?
total. Like right now we have some part-time help, during the summer. That's
Okay.
going to go away here in the next couple of weeks. But generally 19 or 20 full-time employees.
Wow.
Right now, full-time equivalent, we probably have 22.
Right.
But But yeah, so you can tell, hopefully, just by seeing what you've seen, that there's a lot of work to be done. And to do that with 20 people requires requires people to do things that you can't just focus on one thing.
Right? Flexibility,
Yeah.
for sure.
So that's really what we're looking for is folks that are willing to come in and quickly learn, and then be willing to be flexible, right? If you just say,
Yeah.
I really just want to do my job and that's all I want to do all day, there's a place for that, but ultimately you have to be flexible to where you
Right.
can there's different things we need to be doing every day
Right.
just in the production floor.
Right.
But there's engineering projects and customers around the world that want things done differently than what we do standard. So you have to sometimes engineer that on the fly. So,
Like, and Sergio was talking about just like being willing to use the methods that are in front of you so that you can learn it. You can keep an open mind. It helps it. It makes it easier to keep an open mind when the methods are in front of you.
absolutely, and it's as management of the company, it's important for us. It's paramount for us to define those methods and put a system in front of the employees that they can use. Sorry, these flies. And then refine that.
Right.
Get everybody involved and say, is that the
Right.
right process to use?
Right.
Is this the right way to set up this bench? Is this
Right.
honestly, those pumps are too far away from where they honestly get used, which is in those cells that we were using, right? Or that I was showing you. So those pumps actually need to be here. So that's why this is such a mess, is that ultimately we're going to move those pumps from 60 feet to save 60 steps,
Right.
right?
But yeah, with 20 people, you have to make it as efficient as possible.
Yep. And then you see those pumps that have come in on those pallets, right? That's where those go usually. So why not?
Right.
Those are going to move right into that production area back there. Why not put that production area right where you can see it?
Right.
See what I mean? So we came up with a very good design. We designed this in 3D CAD before we started tearing down walls. I wish you could have seen it before all of this, because there were walls and different rooms and the floor was dingy and barely any lights. And honestly, all the production happened where those pumps are, with one toolbox and 3 of
Digging
those benches.
through.
Oh yeah, so if you needed to build a stainless steel Mr. Misters, you would go dig through the toolbox. It's so much more efficiency. And the more you tell them to go do work, they know that the tools
Right.
are going to be there.
Like you were saying, it's satisfying to see the job get done so efficiently.
Oh, it is.
When you're sitting there working in the building something, just be efficient.
There's no frustration of tools.
Right.
Tools break, but
Sure.
we know now what tool it is, and we have that cataloged, and,
Yes.
and we probably have a replacement that's standing
Right.
by.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask questions maybe here or upstairs
Sure.
or what you
Wherever you like, it's up to you.
I mean, it's up, whatever. I'm sure I don't look very good on film, so
Oh.
whatever background is most
Stop you.
appealing.
Okay, what does success look like in this company, and how do you measure it?
It's an interesting question. Ultimately, from a business perspective, right, we need to make sure that we are making money for the shareholders, that we're making money to put back into the community, right? So ultimately, the metric at the top is whether or not we are profitable to the standpoint that we can continue to operate, continue to expand our business and whatnot. But the metrics that there's a bunch of different metrics that we follow in a manufacturing business. And on-time deliveries, quality, scrap percentages, how long it takes to do that process there, if we're doing that on time, those kind of things. We deal with a lot of different suppliers, and so it's important that those suppliers are treating us fairly and equitably. But in terms of what success looks like, if we're making those numbers in a decent way, to me, I'd like everybody to feel like there's no better place to work in the community. Right? That we try to make sure that we're keeping things a good environment to work in, that we are providing good benefits for our employees. We provide food for our employees every day, right? That they can go and snack, right? And it's just healthy food that's keeping, you know, everybody in a good mood, and we do that just because it's important that the employees feel like I don't want to work anywhere else. I want to. This keeps me challenged. They pay me fairly. They take care of me and my family, right? I mean, that's ultimately to me what success means to me, and I think to the business, and hopefully to everybody else, that this is the place I want to work.
Okay. Did I ask you about the most challenging aspect of the job?
No.
Okay. What do you see as the most challenging aspect of this job?
We've talked about it before, but there's a lot of things that need to be done with 20 people. And sometimes it's a matter of what's the highest priority. I think that probably is from my perspective, what's the most challenging thing is what should we be focused on? Because I can give you a tour, and in my mind, I'm making mental notes about that needs change, that needs change. We need to fix this. You know, we need to do better at this to serve these customers. And so it's really challenging to come up with what the priority should be in our business, because there's a lot of opportunities for us to do things differently and improve. And because we're doing so many things within the company, I think that's it's got to be challenging on every employee. That Eric has asked me to do this, and then 10 minutes later he asked me to do that. Which one do I do, right? Because that happens. It happens in the company. I think that probably is the most challenging. And to me, I'm okay in that kind of environment, but some folks aren't.
Right.
And so how we balance that, how we manage that to make sure that different kinds of personalities aren't getting overwhelmed or aren't getting frazzled, right? I think that's probably the biggest challenge in the business.
What current issues and trends in the field should we be aware of, or do you need to be aware of?
In our market, so our primary market is the agriculture segment of the economy. Sub-market to that is the irrigation component, right? And then we're injecting fertilizers into that irrigation, so we're in our own little niche. The main things that we need to be worried about in those areas are water is a valuable resource. Water is continually becoming more valuable, more sought after. The quality's going down. The competition for water from cities, from other neighbors, from and the quality of that water, that's a big challenge. Our products, honestly, in a lot of different ways, can help with that. We can be our products are used to treat water. Our products are used to save water, right? So we need to be aware of that, because if irrigation goes away, our business goes away, right? So that's something that we need to constantly kind of keep track of and kind of help with. Mm-hmm. Secondly, our products are used to inject fertilizer mainly, ag chemicals and other things as well, but the primary product that our systems get used to inject is fertilizer. And farmers as a whole over-fertilize rather than under-fertilize. Mm-hmm. And some of that fertilizer goes off target. It gets down into groundwater, or it gets washed away into streams or whatnot, right? And so there are parts of the world, parts of the nation where nitrogen regulation is becoming mandated. It's becoming a concern, right, to both farmers and regulatory agencies as well. And again, our products can help with that. We just need to make sure that we're right there, kind of help fighting the battle. So a typical way that you could apply fertilizer is just by going out and putting a year's worth of fertilizer on before you even plant the crop, right, or half of that. And a lot of that can be lost.
Right.
But if you just inject the right amount as the crop needs it, which is called spoon feeding, that the potential for that fertilizer to go off target or off the area is very reduced. I mean, it's the chance of it moving is because the plant is using what you put on, right? If you only put on what the plant's going to use in the next time period until you apply again, then the chance of that getting into the water stream is, or getting into the aquifer is very remote. So our products and our process can really help with that. So that's something that we really need to be aware of and are trying to kind of influence these regulatory agencies to look at fertigation
Right.
as a solution for that. So we're working with a company in New Zealand right now that New Zealand, every product that a farmer applies, including water, including seed, fertilizer, anything they apply, is they have to account for. They're also limited on the amount of fertilizer they can put on. So what's happening is a nation that didn't know what fertigation even meant is now, there's 10 or 12 requests for information on fertigation coming in every day to our partners there. So it's a viable solution to that group of problem. In New Zealand, they're very concerned about their environmental conditions, right? Because tourism and dairy are their two biggest industries. So they're very concerned about that, and fertigation can be a very viable solution.
Right. Makes sense.
Well, let's see. What steps would you recommend someone to take to enter this field? Yeah, I guess there are two of them that got kind of mushed together.
Yeah, that's fine. So
What steps would you recommend someone takes to enter this field?
So in the manufacturing area in our business, obviously you're going to be doing mechanical type things with your hand, either assembly or molding or shipping and receiving. You just have to understand that you're going to be doing things physically. So it's important that you recognize that coming in. But I think, again, I talked about it earlier, is in our business, the ability to problem solve, having a strong work ethic, being able to work alone or to work in teams. You have to understand how to do both of those. Understand that it's a dynamic environment, that you may be doing things different tomorrow than you are today, and being a part of that solution of how things maybe get organized or how things could maybe get redone in your environment to help the company operate better. Having those mindsets is the main thing to me. Right? If you come in with a strong work ethic, a strong problem-solving mentality, and are willing to do the work and help the place get better, that trumps skill. We'll teach the skill.
Right.
But those things trump the skill every day.
And are there opportunities for advancement in this company?
Yeah, there are. Advancement, you can see when you look in the business that we're continually looking for new industries or new products or new ways to do things, and anybody that can help with that and put themselves in a spot where maybe they are willing to take over that project or are willing to go out in the marketplace and promote or whatever it may be, there's certainly things that can opportunities within the business that way. But with 20 people, we've got positions in finance and engineering and service and manufacturing, right? Sales, and there's spots to move in there occasionally, right? But we certainly don't want to be a revolving door, so some of those positions people stay in for a long time. It's just as we grow, there's ways for people to move in and say, I'll take that over, right? And we're of the mindset that we're willing to look at things differently to make room for other people too. Bringing on molding, right? The next thing we'll be doing is injection molding. So there's going to be one or two people that probably need to be hired for that. Machining, there's just things that that because we're out here on the Eastern Plains, we kind of have to make sure that we are capable of doing things ourselves.
Right.
Because the folks in Denver can just run across to a vendor that may be, a mile away, and we're out here kind of on our own little island. And we need to make sure that we're self-sufficient
Right.
to that regard.
I'm so glad you answered that question, because that's something that we deal with a lot, is the challenges of being in a rural area.
Yeah.
So, and the metropolitan areas don't seem to understand that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so glad you addressed that.
There's times that we'll talk to a vendor, maybe a new vendor, a supplier of something, an alternate supplier of one of our products, and they'll say, "Oh, we'll run out and see you tomorrow." and all of a sudden they're like, "Wait, that's going to take me all day. I'm going to have to get up at 6 and get on the road by 7 to be there by 10."
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes they're unwilling to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's funny, the ones that do, and we give them this tour, they recognize our validity.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we can, it's important that as a company we are very strong negotiators,
Right.
because we need to get them here, and then once they're here we need to say we take this seriously,
Right.
and we need as good a price as somebody that's in and delivery as good as our bigger competitors, or other customers of theirs that are getting a better deal. And we've done that. It's
Right.
just we in those kind of situations we're pretty hard nosed, because we're out here in a rural area. We have to make sure that we're taken care of.
Yeah.
So this is all new to me. So who would you even say is a competitor in this field?
Right. So
We don't have to include anybody. I'm just
no,
curious.
and I won't name other companies, but